Thank you, Ryan. Buenos días, Tabor College. Whoa, okay. Para los que me pueden entender ahorita, que pueden entender las palabras que estoy hablando, quiero que me apoyen con algo. Y cuando diga la palabra lista, quiero que se pongan de pie y que se queden parados, ¿ok? 1, 2, 3, lista. Nobody. Okay, I got one Spanish speaker. Ándale, aquí estamos. Okay, gracias. Yeah, what's up? Okay. Stay standing up. Queden separados. Okay, right here. Why did you stand up? Besides that she stood up, but why did you stand up? Because you understand me. Why do you understand me? Oh, where from? Yeah, boy. Sweet. So, you guys can sit down. Because you understood me, you knew what to do, right? Well, eventually, once you're like, oh, I should stand up. For my hermana, gracias for standing up, even though you didn't really want to. So for those who speak Spanish, you were able to understand what I was asking you to do. For those of you who don't, you were kind of like, is this chick going to speak in Spanish this whole time? Because this is a good nap that's coming up. So because you know, you understand. Hear that. Because you know, you understand. And that's the same way with story or stories. Listen to this. Behind every face, there's a story. Behind every face, walking the face of this earth, there's a story. The story is what gives us understanding, much like a language does. When we know Spanish, when Joanna asks you to stand up in Spanish, you know to stand up. So because you understand, you know what to do. When you know the story of someone, we understand who's behind the face. Behind every face, there is a story. I have a story. I have a story with various chapters. Some chapters are pretty hard to talk about. Some chapters, when I share about and remember them, I find myself with tear-filled eyes. Some chapters in my life, I find myself smiling and laughing because they were sweet moments. But I want you to look to your left, look at someone, and then just look to your right, look at someone. Each one of those faces, and all the faces in this room, and every face that walks this earth has a story. Each face, each story, has gone through their mountaintops where life has been like with a sweet view. I don't know if you've ever been to the top of a mountain. We don't have mountains in South Texas, so when I've been able to go to mountains, it's like, wow, this is sweet. But I don't know if you've ever been in the valleys. They're hard. Sometimes they're pretty dark. Each face has gone through a mountain or mountains, and each face has gone through the valleys. I tell you the truth, Tabor College. When we get to know the stories behind the faces, we start understanding each other a little more. When we get to know the stories behind the faces, we start having more compassion and empathy towards each other. When we get to know the stories behind the faces, we start being a little more patient. When we get to know the stories behind the faces, we start to realize that we're not as alone as we thought. When we get to know the stories behind the faces, we start to become better neighbors to others. Simply, we start to become better people to each other. So let's try this. What do you all know about the story behind this face? For those of you who are paying attention to the introduction that Ryan read, where did I grow up? Come on, I need some interaction. Where did I grow up? South Texas. My heart is spread across what countries? Mexico, Peru, Japan, Thailand, Paraguay, Panama, India, Canada, they count. I graduated from Tabor College, what year? 2009, but I actually didn't finish till 2010 because I'm a fifth-year overachiever. I've done a few things after Tabor. Do you guys remember what some of those things were? PE teacher-aide, Mission Mobilizer, and right now, missionary in Peru. I've been there since what year? 2016. Good job. Huh. What was my commitment? 10 years. I've been stateside since May because of, that's a pretty easy one. We're all wearing masks because of it too. When have I grown the most? My deepest pain. What's the motto that has been very significant for me since 2009? I heard it louder. Do something. Be better. I'm going to tell y'all why. There's my Texan coming out. All right. That's Matthew McConaughey. He's a Texan, just so you know. So it was Monday morning, February 23rd, 2009. My friend Jenny and I were walking up the treacherous 3 flights of stairs to the Lorenz, 3rd level. No matter how fit, how athletic you are, you get up there, you're huffing and puffing. We were heading to our senior Bible class, Christian Faith. As we were approaching the top of the stairs, we noticed that all of our classmates were in the hallway, which was weird because everyone would go and sit in class and wait for our professor, Dr. Dave Faber. But they weren't. They were standing in the hallway. And when we started walking towards them, after we stopped huffing and puffing, everyone seemed to turn and look at us. And they all had this shocked looking faces. Then one of our classmates approached Jenny and I, telling us these words that will forever be etched in my mind. They're saying that Marcus Manny died in a car accident last night. I don't know if you've ever received news that made the world freeze and just stop. Or news that made your heart not even know how to react and what to do. Jenny and I, along with our classmates, stood there in the hallway, 3rd level of the Lorenz, stunned, shocked. I thought, this can't be real. Marcus is pulling our legs. He's a prankster. I'm going to kick his... This can't be real. It was then that Dr. Faber started walking towards our class and asked us all to please come inside. We all sat at the desks that we normally would sit in. When I looked over to the desk next to Jenny, who was next to me, where Marcus would have been sitting, I started to realize this isn't a joke. This is real. Dr. Faber proceeded to tell us, "It is with a heavy heart that I tell you that Marcus Manny was in a car accident last night close to the Oklahoma-Kansas border on his way back to Tabor from his home in Texas, and he unfortunately did not make it. We don't have any details, but we will keep you all informed when we receive any new information, and we will let you know when the memorial services are happening. His family will come up here the next few days. We ask that you be praying for them. And as an institution, we also know that this will be difficult for you, Marcus's friends, classmates, and teammates. we encourage you to grieve together. Sit with each other in this difficult reality. Don't grieve and mourn alone. Be with each other. Go be with each other right now. Class is dismissed for today. We all stood up in silence and walked out. I don't know if you've ever had to organize a memorial service for one of your closest friends. It has to be one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. Marcus was a well-known guy on campus. Like me, he was a fifth-year overachiever. And he was a make everyone smile kind of guy. He was the type of guy that would go up to someone who looked like they were not having a good day, whether he knew them or not. Usually he didn't. He genuinely cared and asked, "Hey, why do you look so sad? What's going on?" And then he would give you his big smile that he was known for. He would sit there, and eventually you caught yourself. You were smiling as well. He genuinely cared for people. He wasn't perfect, but that was one thing I learned from Marcus. So much that I thought it was kind of weird at first. Like, you care too much, dude. Like, stop asking. Marcus was also the kicker of the football team. Didn't matter what kind of season, what kind of game, Marcus was smiling. Marcus had a dream of being the kicker for the beloved Dallas Cowboys. Seriously, this boy had big dreams. He was really looking forward to graduating that coming May of 2009. I got to really know Marcus the fall of 2008. He was all of a sudden a part of my close friend group. What I didn't know was that Marcus actually didn't like being at Tabor, mostly because he was from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and small-town Hillsboro was not really cutting it for him on the availability of things. But he stuck it out. And it was not until his 5th year at Tabor that he felt like, this is good. I'm glad I'm here. And it was the fall of 2008, his 5th year, that he went to a chapel, much like this one, and his life was forever changed. He was just ready that day to give his life to Jesus. Did he know what it meant exactly? No. But there was an invitation, and Marcus was ready. I actually was leading worship for that day. I got to be a part of that without even knowing it. This Jesus that Marcus had heard about his whole life, this Jesus that he knew about from his favorite childhood verse, and one that many, if not all of us, know or have heard. For God, you're already saying it in your mind, so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, so that everyone who believes in him, which is Jesus, will not perish, but have eternal life. Little did Marcus know that at that Tabor Chapel in the fall of 2008, when he decided to surrender his life to Jesus and start learning what it meant to follow this Jesus, he would actually get to see Jesus face to face sooner than any of us thought. Less than 5 months after saying yes to Jesus, Marcus went to his forever home with him. Marcus's passing, but also his way of seeing life, taught me to live life on purpose and for a purpose. It taught me to live life on purpose and for a purpose, and to not wait till tomorrow so you don't have that promised. You've got today. It also taught me that each person was created with giftings, with passions, with talents, and with a story. Marcus's story will forever be a part of my story. We weren't friends for years. It was actually just a few months, even though I had class with him for 4 years. But we shared a portion of life that will impact our eternity together with our Creator and Lord. For our Christian faith class with Dr. Dave Faber, we read Shane Claiborne's Irresistible Revolution book. I remember Marcus coming up to me and saying, "Dude, have you read this part in this chapter? This guy is like crazy. This guy's rocking my world." Marcus was reading about a radical way of reading about Jesus in the Bible and what our response to him should look like. What is the Bible? What is the Bible? I don't know if it's much to you or not. Sometimes this book, it's called this book, it's actually a library of books, several books, with different literary styles that tells one unifying story. The story of God contained in the pages of the Bible revolves around a person. Listen to this. The story of God contained in the pages of the Bible revolves around one person, a person, not a set of principles and rules. As the author Brennan Manning wrote in Ruthless Trust, it must be noted that Jesus alone reveals who God is. We cannot deduce anything about Jesus from what we think we know about God. However, we must deduce everything about God from what we know about Jesus. God gave us a compilation, a library of books that outlines the story of all stories, the one that tells of how much he loves us. He loved and he loves us. That he gave us Jesus to know how to live, to know how to love, to know how to act, to know how to react, what to be about, and even the injustices to stand against. In Jesus, we find the fulfillment and the purpose of the grand story that we see in the Bible. Remember what I said earlier. The story is what gives us understanding, like a language does. So when we get to know the unifying story that is within the Bible, we start to understand life and purpose, our life and our purpose, more and more. I encourage you, I challenge you, if you've never read the Bible, and especially if you've never read the Bible with that unifying story in which everything is pointing to Jesus, do it. I dare you. Do it. If you need help with how to do that, because this compilation of book can sometimes be a little confusing, ask. I need help. I'm constantly looking for how resources can help me better understand the storyline that is within the Bible. You're at a place where you can find guidance on how to do this. Take advantage of it. Learn the deeper reason, the deeper purpose in your story. Marcus had a motto. He obnoxiously wrote it everywhere. What do you think it was? It was within my introduction paragraph. Do something. Be better. He wanted to be about living life on purpose and for a purpose. Today, October 7, 2020, would have been Marcus's 35th birthday. And instead of sending him a "now you're a year older than me, man" text, I get to remember his life and his story. Here, at a place where his life was forever changed. Have you shared your story or part of your story with someone else? I'm sure some of you have. But have you really shared your story? Like the hard and heavy chapters that no one wants to hear about. I remember that it was my sophomore year at Tabor when I realized there's a chapter in my story that I've never, ever shared with anyone. And I had a group of friends that I had been hoping for most of my childhood, to have a group of friends that I could just be me. And it was within that friend group that I realized I've got to share this part of my story. And when I shared that part, a very difficult part of my story with my friends, there was something within me that started healing. There was something within me that started realizing I'm not as alone as I thought I was. And my friends started understanding me better. They started getting why I react to certain things, why I say and don't say certain things, why I'm sensitive to certain things. I've grown the most when I've gone through the deepest pain. But I've grown the most in that deepest pain when I've allowed Jesus to heal and shape and lead me to who I was created to be. It sure didn't feel like it at the time. Pain is something we don't really like. But that's when my compassion, that's when my empathy, that's when my patience, that's when my love, that's when my kindness, that's when my self-control, and a few other things were challenged. And I grew. And I'm still growing. Right now, I'm supposed to be in Peru. That's where I'm supposed to be. But with COVID, I'm here. I don't know exactly what God has. But I know that He's with me in this valley. It's been a hard year, and I think most of us feel that. I don't know if I can say this at chapel, but most things has just sucked this year. It's been difficult. This year has pretty much felt like a valley of death. My family has lost close to 20 plus extended family members to COVID. Life is not the same. There are a lot of injustices, a lot of hate, a lot of division that we see in the world. This part of my story that's being written right now, it's not a mountaintop. I recognize that. It has felt very dark and hard. But I know, because I have been reminding myself of my story and who God has been, that because of this constant deep pain that 2020 has brought, there will be even greater growth and purpose to be revealed. And maybe I won't see that purpose on this side of heaven, but I'm choosing to trust Jesus because I've experienced Him carry me in the past, and I know He will do it again. So I ask you, where have you grown the most? What's your story? Share it. Ask your friends what their story is. Ask your roommate. Ask your teammates. Ask your professors. Ask random people, as Marcus did. Share your stories. Understand each other better. My hope and my prayer for you is that you live life on purpose and for a purpose. I'm not trying to be dark or this like, you're going to die tomorrow. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you have today. Live it fully, on purpose, for a purpose. Learn how to walk with people in deeper ways. Let people walk with you in deeper ways. Story. It helps us understand, just like language does. Let's pray. Jesus, many times we don't understand what life is about. We don't understand why things happen. Many times we don't even think about you when life is good. But one thing I do know is that you are constant. You are the same. You are good. You are trustworthy. And I pray that each person sitting here, if they heard nothing else, they may hear that you are about their story. Free them to share their stories. Free them to see where you want to heal within their stories. Do that for me. Do that for us. You loved us so much, Jesus, that you came to give us life. So may we live that life with a purpose and on purpose. Amen.